Okay, you're here. Let's get this going. In this video, I'm gonna be more detailed, and I'm actually gonna do two ways. One, a fast and lazy way, and another one, a much detailed way like Hormozi does. Make your judgment and decide which way you like, which way you wanna go, and incorporate in your workflow. With editing, just know there's no right and wrong way of doing things. As long as it works, hey. All right, first off, I like to start creating a new project, and I like to name it Shorts. And this can become a template for all the videos that you're gonna do next, either Reels, TikToks, any short form of content. And we're gonna hit create from here. Your workspace could look like this or slightly different, it's fine. But what I'm gonna advise you to do if you're doing any kind of short form content is come to Windows, go to Workspaces, and change it to vertical. I feel it's a much more dynamic way to edit short form content just because you're gonna have more real estate on the actual screen here than just, working on a little bitty, vertical video. All right, next thing, I like to start by creating a couple of bins where I'm gonna have my footage and some assets. So right here under my project template, I'm going to right click and just do a new bin. So I'm gonna name this one footage, and I'm gonna do the same thing, new bin, and I'm gonna name this one assets, just in case I want to throw in graphics, emojis, which we're gonna cover this in a minute, music, and all this sort of stuff. So I'm gonna double click on footage, and I'm gonna double click inside this folder. You can either double click to import, or you just do a right click and you go to import. Same thing. So I'm going to double click on my footage. Okay, and my footage is here. So to get things going on our project, we're gonna go up to file, and we're gonna hit new, and right under new, we're gonna go to sequence. As you can tell right here on the bottom, I already have a preset that I use, but if you don't, I can show you how to make one from scratch. With my camera settings, DSLR is actually one of the best, so just go with 1080, and you typically pick the frame rate that you shoot in. I shoot in 25, so I'm gonna go with 1080 by 25, and next I'm gonna go to settings, and I'm just gonna flip these values for vertical. So I'm gonna do 1080, hit tab by 1920. Just make sure your time base is 25 frames, which is what you're shooting. Again, if you're shooting 30 frames, set it up to 30 frames. And your square pixel is 1. All right, that's all that you need to worry about there. So coming down here, you're gonna hit save preset. I'm not gonna save it because I already have mine done, but once you do, this is basically what's going to look like. Under here where it says custom, you're gonna have your preset created. All right, so before I create my sequence, I'll go ahead and name it. So shorts, it's good for me, and I hit OK. And now we have our sequence created. So next thing, just come back to our footage bin, and we're going to drag our footage right inside of our timeline. This window will come up just because I shoot my footage all in horizontal so that I can crop it later. So make sure when you see this window, you click on keep existing settings, because we want to keep the existing settings that we set on our sequence, not the video settings. All right, so we're gonna keep it. As you can tell, there's two big bars up and down, and our footage is not in vertical mode. To fix that, we're gonna come into this window where you have your bins and look for the effects tab. If you don't happen to see it, just come to window and just make sure your effects tab is selected. Okay, here we're gonna hit search, and we're gonna type auto reframe. Okay, so right under the transform, auto reframe, and we're just gonna click it and drag it to our footage, drop it, and boom, magic. Okay, so before we begin with doing any caption, what I like to do is go through my footage and do some cutting and just removing any ums, buts, any filler words. A few ways that I do this to speed up my workflow is two ways. So using the custom keys that Premiere Pro already provides, that means that you don't need to even set up these custom keys. Premiere Pro already provides this for you. I do my cuts and I just eliminate things that I don't need without going too much back and forth in my razor tool. So for example, typically you would go to your razor tool and you hit a cut, and then maybe, hit your V keys and you delete, right? Or sometimes you can even use ripple delete. But instead of doing that is I just move my playhead to where I want my cut to begin, and using my keyboard, I just hit the letter Q, and it just ripple deletes anything before the playhead to the previous cut. And same thing going forward. I move the playhead to the very end of my video where I want the last cut to be, and I hit W and deletes anything after the playhead to the next cut. Meaning, if I just want to eliminate this gap, I hit C on my keyboard just to create a cut, and then I move my playhead to the very end of where I need to be, and I hit W. and it's just much quicker, especially if you're sorting through a lot of footage. All right, next thing you want to make sure is going up on the Windows tab, you're gonna make sure that text is selected because you want this to pop up. This is where we're gonna start creating our captions. The way I like to create my captions is I go to transcribe, and before I do anything else, just because I might have different footage on the timeline, and actually for illustration purposes, I'm gonna copy this and I'll leave this here so I can show you guys a couple of versions later on the tutorial. I like to create an in point by pressing the key I on my keyboard and going to the very end of my video and pressing O. Okay, we just create an in and out point because I don't want Premiere Pro to do captions on my entire timeline. So we're gonna go up here, we're gonna go to transcribe sequence. So we're not gonna worry about anything up here. Next, I'm gonna hit transcribe in to out point. That's what we just did, and transcribe. From here, I like to double click on the text, and Premiere Pro just opens the box so I can make any auto corrections. In case Premiere Pro, caught a word wrong or, transcribe anything wrong, I like to catch it and make my corrections here on this level before creating my captions. Another thing that I do to make my captions look cleaner, I remove any punctuation unless it's a question mark. Okay, once I'm done with my edits, I'm just gonna click away from it so this box works, and I'm gonna go forward with creating my captions. Few ways that you can create your captions. If you're on this tab, you just click on this CC icon here and you create your captions, or on those three dots, you also have the options, okay? Whichever one works. So I'm gonna click on this one right here, and then I'm gonna hit this arrow to drop down and set some settings. Again, don't worry about the settings up here, especially about styles, because you haven't created a style. This is what we're doing on this video. So we're gonna focus on the bottom part of this window. Typically on my videos, because it's more engaging, I go with single. That means when I'm speaking, my words just come in faster and sometimes it's more engaging. But because we're doing Alex Hormozi, we're gonna double stack this. Meaning right here where it says line, we're not gonna go to single, we're gonna leave it on double. And where I feel my sweet spot is with maximum length is right around 12. Minimum duration, I'm gonna do 2 seconds, and we're gonna hit create captions. All right, the captions are created, and as you can tell, they are down here. So what I do from here, I like to come to the very first caption just because it eliminates an extra step later to make sure your style is going to apply to all your captions. When you do it on the very first one, Premiere Pro automatically assumes that you want this style to go on the rest of your captions without having to click extra buttons. So let's go through this and you're going to see what I mean. I want to come up here and go to my essential graphics. If you don't see it, again, default going to window and making sure essential graphics is selected. So we're gonna go to edit, just make sure you're not on the browse, you're on the edit side, and we're going to scroll down. First thing I like to do is change my font immediately. So we're gonna search for Montserrat, and I actually have it already on this side, which is black, which is what Hormozi uses. And I like to set to all caps. Just make sure it's centralized. As far as size, anything between 80 and 90, it works really well. It just depends also what type of video you're working with, but that's where I like to stay on 80 as far as font size. Then zone, we're gonna set our zone to the middle, and then we're gonna drop it down just a little bit by clicking and then dragging your mouse to the right side. Next, we're gonna add stroke to this, and we're gonna set it to black, okay? You're gonna click OK. I like to add a slight stroke to almost about 10 because I feel it gives an extra dimension to the font as well. And we're gonna scroll down, and this you can have it as a cheat sheet as well, but once you set this thing, you will need to reset it. So I typically drag my distance to about a 4.8. I set the size to around 12 to 13, so 12.8 is fine. And the blur, I take it up to about 25. Okay, next thing I do so I can give the captions more room and, Premiere Pro can stack things properly, I click on the font on the screen and I adjust these guys by bringing them outwards like this. If there's a longer word, Premiere Pro is not gonna cut on a weird spot. So I do that. Once I adjust that, I can go here on track style where it says none and hit create track. And we're gonna go with Hormozi captions. And I'm just gonna name it base. and hit OK. And because we did this on the very first caption, Premiere Pro automatically sets this to the next captions. So for example, on this guy, if we didn't give him room, Premiere Pro triple stack this. And we only want this like in double line. Okay, at this point, you want to pause the video, go to the description and find my presets that I just dropped. They are brand new. They are free to you. Go in there, download it, and I'm going to show you how you can apply to this project, because there are things that we're going to go through that I don't want you to recreate. I already recreated those for you, and you can just use it because I want you to spend less time doing those things and more time actually just editing more content. And if you're working with clients, pushing this content out there. So once you download it, how you're going to bring it to Premiere Pro is right up here where you have your bins. Again, go back to your effects control, and right on presets, you just do a right click and you're going to click on import presets. Once you do that, just find the folder where you have the presets and you double click the preset file and it should pop all up in a bin. Okay, I'm not going to import it right now because I already have them. So if I drop down my presets, it should open up a folder with all the presets in it. This is the part that I can do the lazy way or the detail way. So let me show you the lazy way first, and it's the fastest way that you can get this done, in my opinion, without being very tedious, and your videos still come up dynamic. Hey, if it works for you, it works, but then I'm going to show you the detailed version. All right, my absolute fastest way of getting this thing done is I go to my captions. Before I do anything to them, I like to change colors. So I click on the very first one and I go where I say fill. So 2 ways of you doing colors on your captions. One, you can memorize the color codes, which I have. For yellows, I usually stick to FFF 304s. And for greens, I do 45 FF05s. If you don't want to go through this pain like I did, actually, I'm going to give a shout out to Saturn Ring. And I believe there's also a great YouTuber that did this, that just created a template. Actually, the way I used to do it ghetto when I started, I literally imported different, Hormozi videos, and I put it just on below, on the bottom of my footage, and I start clicking it for color code. But we made this much simpler and much cleaner. I also have this in the pack for you. So if I go back to my bins and I hit this arrow, I go double click into my assets and double click in this bin and go to find my preset packs. I left this color codes for you. So you can just drag this down here. So clicking on the first caption, easy way that you could do is hit the eyedropper tool and select the color that you want, and it changes the entire text. Lazy way, again, you can have each and every text, each and every caption block the same color, or you can go through it and color individual words. This works better if you have your captions on single, which typically is going to be 1 to 2 words, so that's more dynamic. But I'm just going to show it to you and you take whichever approach you like from this, okay? So what I do, clicking on the very first caption, I like to zoom out, and because this gets so tiny, it doesn't give me this, because what I hate is this. If I'm selecting the next caption over, I hate this freaking arrow, because if I hit it, it just freaking goes away. So I like to select the very first caption or the caption that I want to start adding color to. I zoom out, they get really tiny, and I just randomly pick different areas of the video. And because I'm on the very first caption, if I change colors to this guy, boom, every caption that was selected change colors too. And then let's say I go to the very next caption over, same thing, zoom out and select a few spots in there, scroll down, eyedropper, and green. And if you will just play it. And yes, I've been using it on my videos as well, and they are very engaging and they draw attention. It's not the most dynamic, but like I said, when you have it in single, it works really well. From here, after adding color, what I like to do is select my captions and then go up where it says graphics and titles and scroll down where it says upgrade captions to graphics. We just turn our captions into actual text layers that we can apply effects to. So this is where I like to select almost every other caption. And what I do, I hit the shift key and click on one of the selected captions and drag down. Why? Because I just want to have a clear distinction which ones have effects, which one don't. So with them still selected, I'm going to go to our effects that we just added. By the way, it's the same approach if you're adding Finzar's effects, okay? So I'm going to drop this down and I'm going to come find Finzar effects. And let's say for these guys, I'm gonna have it to stretch width, boom. And let's say for the very first one, we're gonna have a pop in, and right around here, we're gonna set it to pop as well. And if you play, this is how it looks like. Yes, I've been using it on my videos as well, and they are very engaging and they draw. Just makes things more dynamic. So if you notice on Hormozi captions, his captions are kind of like slanted. So on the same pack that we just downloaded, my pack, you're gonna go to where it says left tilt. Again, you're gonna select almost every other caption and you're gonna click on left tilt and drag on that, and you're gonna select again every other caption besides the one that you just did, and you're gonna apply a right tilt. You are almost there. By the way, if you are still in the video, congrats, you are a troop. That means you really want to take your editing game to the next level and offer the best to your clients, if you happen to have clients. If not, just make killer ass content. Another thing that I have inside my packs are emojis. You're gonna go into your asset bin, double click it, and find the emoji set. Again, thank you Saturn Ring for having this for us, because typically I just download it from a website or go to Canva. Select the emojis that you want to use. I'm just gonna bring in these two, and you can click on your emoji and just bring it right on top of your text layers. Go into effect controls so you can manipulate this emoji. So what I do, I reduce the scale of it and I add a slight rotation, so it's a little bit slanted. I also like to change my positioning on it, typically around here. And then I set my length to my emoji by just dragging on this side of the graphic. All right, now let's make this emoji look better like one of Hormozi's emojis. All right, so select your emoji graphic and go back to your effect panel, and you're gonna drag the effect called emoji shadow. This adds a shadow all around your emoji, and your emoji just comes out a little bit more. To make it more exciting, I could do two things. I can add one of Finn's art effects, or this pop bounce effect that I created that kind of like the emoji just dropping from nowhere, just for added visual interest and break that pattern a little bit. And this is what it looks like. All right, so this is the fastest way and the laziest way for you to create Alex Hormozi style captions. Now, let's go the more detailed way, which you're gonna identify the words that you actually want to highlight, and where it's a karaoke follow with colors, or just a follow along, like the text getting bigger and then getting smaller. And just so you know, if you already have an original transcription, how do you retranscribe something else? Again, I like to start with setting my in and out point. And then I go to the transcription under the text tab, and I click on those three dots, and I come right below where it says create captions. I go to retranscribe. Okay, same things. I go and do in and out point and hit transcribe. Okay, I'm done cleaning that up. And then again, just hit the CC, and we're gonna set this to 12 and this to 2. Leave it on double because we're doing Alex Hormozi, create captions. Again, we're gonna come to the very first one, and because we already did all that work, we could just come to our essential graphics right here under textiles. Just go Hormozi captions base, boom. And now you gotta make sure it's just if your text placement is correct on every one of them. If it's not, just fix it. Okay, so once you fix that, again, you're gonna go into your assets bin, and you're gonna find that color code template, and you're gonna drag that right on top of your footage, just because you're gonna do the edits on this level before we actually convert them to text layers. You could do that afterwards. I just prefer to work on it while I'm here. Okay, so here, the much detailed version that I was talking about is we're gonna identify a keyword, and we're just gonna set a color, either green or yellow. And the way we do it is just we double click on the letter. So for example, I'm gonna highlight yes, and I'm gonna scroll down here under my essential graphics on edit. I'm gonna keep my eyedropper tool, and this one is gonna be green. Next one, my videos. I'm gonna double click on my videos. I'm gonna select that. And eyedropper tool, we're gonna do yellow. And for example, the karaoke follow along, this is where we could do it, and you just identify which word you say first, and you create a cut and you add color to the first word and then you add color to the next word, so it kind of like follows along like this. So I'm going to create a cut here, and on the first one we're going to double click on as, and we're going to set eyedropper to green, and on the next one you're going to select the word well and scroll down, eyedropper to green, and it creates this follow along. Okay. All right. And we're just going to keep identifying those key terms in each captions to make them pop. Okay. Another thing that Hormozi does is like that, you know, bigger text, smaller text, kind of like follow along. So how you do that, identify at what point he mentions the top portion on your captions. And when he mentions the lower one, it just create a cut in between and make the previous one larger and the next one larger. This is how you do it. So it says draw attention. So, okay, so you're going to make a cut here. And on the first portion, you're going to double click on the word draw. We're just going to select that and make it bigger, like 105. And we can actually set the color to green while we're here. And the next one, we're going to double click it again, and we're going to select the entire bottom section and set that to 105. And this is what it looks like. Pretty nice. Okay, so go through this and apply these different effects, and let's do the next part. Okay, so once you're done with those edits, again, you just drag and select all your captions. You go to graphics and styles, upgrade captions to graphics, and you have your graphics all here at the bottom in a way that you can add effects. Again, I'm just going to select a few of those, okay, to make this more dynamic. Hit shift, drag them down so they don't change positions. And I'm going to go to my effects tab, and I'm going to go to my fins artifacts. And this one, I'm going to stretch length. And I'm going to select a couple of other ones so I can add bounce. And I'm going to shift those up. And I'm going to add the pop on those guys, as well as my left tilt on these guys. And select all the other ones that we applied effects first, the right tilt. All right, so once you're done on your edits and you spice up with some emojis, and then you add the shadows and you add the bounce, this is what it looks like. Yes, I've been using it on my videos as well, and they are very engaging and they draw attention and they just take the viewer to a different experience. So another thing to make this better is just by adding sound effects. I'm going to include the link below as well, or how you can find some sound effects. It's actually offered by Saturn Ring. Again, thank you, my guy. You did a superb job. But the reason why we're doing this for free is because we really want people to go out in the industry and just offer this. I want people, you know, your filmmaker or your content creator to love this craft, man. I'm passionate about this. I like people to become students and learn how to do these things. So take time to improve yourself and, you know, work on yourself and go offer this to people, because there's a ton of people in the industry right now looking for this solution. So learn the skills, offer it, or just using your content and go kill it, man. If this video was valuable, again, please drop a like, subscribe, or even share, and I see you guys on the next one.